What's good, everyone, and welcome back to the channel as I will give you my instant but not so instant reaction of the Kansas City Chiefs defeating the New York Giants 20-17. I did hold off a little bit on it because trade deadline is today, so I kind of want to do a little mix and mash of anything that happens with the Chiefs trade-wise, which it did, so I will throw that in as well, but also recap of the game. Let's dive into this game. As I did mention, the Chiefs did defeat the New York Giants 20-17, and a lot of fans are going to be very disappointed in the outcome of the game because, as what I mentioned as well, I was hoping if I wanted to see a big turnaround in this team, it would start with blowing out the Giants. And yes, I get it. They're a professional football team. They get paid as well. It's going to be a competition. Just because their record says they're bad doesn't mean they're a bad team. But if Kansas City wants to defeat the tiers of a Green Bay Packers next week or a Raiders or the Cowboys coming up, they need to show they're in a different bracket. And last night they didn't really do that. And it was highly disappointing because they look like a mediocre to bad team at times in the game. I will say there was flashes of Mahomes showing he can be the player we're used to seeing. But last night, a lot of incompletions, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of him feeling uncomfortable, and it's just strange to see him like that, and we're all getting thrown off by that because, like, when is he going to get out of this slump? We're in week 8 now. I understand he hasn't played like that the whole season, but as of right now, the last 3 weeks has been a huge, complete struggle, and we're just waiting for him to get out of that funk because used to in prior seasons, he would have a bad game, and then he would jump and have like a 4-touchdown game. We're not seeing that so far, and I don't know if it's the reads the defenses are giving him, because even at that, if it is, they're still doing the same thing, and we're still not answering back. So I'm hoping Mahomes can like kind of correct it sooner rather than later as well. You see, like Kelsey also struggled out there. He had a huge fumble, which almost changed the game completely. And that was very unfortunate. And then, of course, Mahomes had a bad interception. People are going to blame it on McKinnon, but I got to blame Mahomes because I don't think it was intended for McKinnon. I think he overthrew Gordon, and if he throws it right on Gordon, I think that's a touchdown. With that, too, as well, it's also him, like, being, like, nervous in the pocket because that didn't have to be a jump pass, and it had to be him scrambling everywhere. He ended up jumping, overthrowing Gordon, and it hit McKinnon in the face, and it deflected interception, which is the most unfortunate thing with this team as well. Like, I get all the turnovers. It's happening. It seems like it's going to happen all year. Hopefully, this end is somewhere in the sight for these turnovers. But as that, they're also happening when we are about to score every drive. And that's just a killer because, man, turnovers are turnovers. But when it's happening, like, inside the 30, which I got to look at that stat as well. When it's happening then, you're taking at least 3 points off the board and inside the 5, a touchdown. And that's happened way too much this season. And somehow, some way that needs to stop. If I'm going to point a positive, though, we mentioned it as well. The defense always hits its stride around midway point of the season, and that's what it's looking like right now. They've been putting like halves or quarters together, but last night was almost a complete full game of like solid defense. Willie Gay has become the linebacker we love to see. Of course, if it wasn't for one mishap, which is Sorensen getting burned, how do you cause a PI and then cause a catch, like a 50-yard catch when the receiver had no business catching it? I'm not going to say my piece on Sorensen because we already know how I feel. Chiefs Kingdom already knows how to feel about him. But he still managed to see the field. And same with another touchdown to Neiman as well. Those two boys, they keep seeing the field. I don't think that'll change, unfortunately. But the defense looks like they're turning it around. Chris Jones and Frank Clark ended the game correct. Frank Clark, I got to give him huge kudos because he played a masterful, like, beautiful game. He was in the backfield all night. Even though he only recorded 1 sack, you could tell he was applying pressure all night. We saw it from the Tennessee game. Hopefully he keeps just adding games together, and he can keep adding sacks as well. Keep Chris Jones at D-tackle because he was destroying the center, and that's what he's meant to do. That defensive end position, it was a project. The project, it's over. We know he can't do it. Maybe he can if you give him more chances, but right now we're in a dire mode to keep winning games, and with the schedule you're in right now, D-tackle, and I'll mention why that will be more beneficial towards the line and why it looks like he will keep playing D-tackle, but the defense played really solid. And another thing I wanted to mention as well, offense wasn't on point. Tyreek was the only one who seemed like he showed up, but at that too as well, I think if KC wants to be a really good team this year, which there is still hope with that. I think there really is. I'm not changing my whole aspect on the Chiefs. I do still think they're going to lose next week. I think they're going to struggle against the Raiders, but I think they can pull it out. And I think they'll lose to the Cowboys. So it's going to be a tough stretch. I'm not saying like I'm impressed with this win whatsoever, but there was pieces to be put together, and there is promise shown off of a 20-17 victory. But jumping back to the offense, I think the Chiefs need to run the ball. We're used to them being this high-powered scoring offense and things like that and stretching the field. And maybe that will come in the future. Who knows? When you run the ball, things tend to happen. So it can happen. But right now, if you could run the ball with Gore or even a Williams or even when CEH comes back, that line is beautiful when it comes to run blocking. That's their thing. That's what they excel in. Maybe we need to be a run-first team, and then Mahomes, take what the defense gives you. I guarantee you those safeties will come in once they realize we're a run team, and then you can pick your poison at that point, and then we start getting back to the Chiefs of old. I think the offense needs to redevelop everything they've done. I think they need to be a run-first team, which is crazy to say, but if they're going to be successful, I think that's how you do it, because every running back we put back there, and yes, for you Clyde haters, he does the same. Chiefs are averaging over 5 yards a carry, no matter what running back you put back there. These linemen love to block for the run. I just hate that we probably won't get that because Andy Reid is more of a pass-heavy coach, but if that's what's winning you games and what is controlling the clock, and definitely for like Aaron Rodgers, people always talk, get Mahomes off the field. Run the ball. Let's get Rodgers off the field. Because as well, if that defense starts turning it around, I'm not saying they're going to put this type of performance up every week because it's the Giants, but they're showing improvements. If the defense improves to where they're actually making stops and then a run game takes the ball out of the opponent's hands, Chiefs might be a good team, just different than what we're used to seeing. And I think that's what they need to stick to be successful in the future and in the near future if they want to make it to the playoffs this year. Now, as I mentioned, it's trade deadline day, and Chiefs made a couple of moves, which is quite surprising because I thought this day would just come and go. We hype up the trade deadline as crazy it is, have all these hypothetical trades that might happen, and they end up never happening. 1 o'clock comes by, nothing. And that's for the whole NFL. But today, the Chiefs made the trade which we were hoping for, even though it's nothing like the big, sexy move. It was a guy who should have been in KC in the first place, Melvin Ingram. And I think this is a huge addition. I know he's like older, but even with Pittsburgh, he created a lot of pressure in the time he was playing, and he just wasn't comfortable. Well, he wasn't even not comfortable. They just didn't give him the snaps he wanted. So now, KC will definitely give him the snaps he wants. And with that being said as well, what I love tremendously about this trade as well, that will push Chris Jones back into the middle. He'll be the D tackle. You can have Clark. You can have Ingram rushing. I love the line as it is. I love seeing Jarron Reed finally getting involved these past 2 weeks. I think we're starting to click big time with that. And I think Melvin Ingram is going to be a bigger asset than most people say. I don't think the stat line will show it, but the pressures he will put on the quarterback or help Clark and Jones as well, taking double teams off, I think that's going to help immensely. And I think it's a huge addition that people are just going to sleep on. Now let's jump into the next trade, which involved the doctor. He's going to, I'm just going to say Tardif. I always struggle with his name, but our lineman, he hasn't really been getting much playing time. We traded him for a tight end. I almost said Dan Arnold, and that's not it. I know it starts with a Dan. I might put an image on the screen so we get clarity on it, but Tardif for a tight end. Mostly what this was, I think it was a money move. Tardif's contract was bigger. Dan, I'm going to call him Dan because I'm really slumping on his name right now. But, yeah, the tight end from the Jets, it's a money move because his contract's so small. He could end up getting cut because this will be the next move I talked about. But Tardif, he decided to avoid his contract, his no trade clause to go for the Jets, which is a smart move. You might get some more playing time with the Jets, and he gets to prove his showcase. He really hasn't played in almost 2 years now, 1.5 to be exact, because he took COVID off last year. So good for him. He was a stout piece for us for a while. He did have his inconsistencies. He was never going to get in that starting role once Trey Smith took over. He is not handing it over again. So good for Tardif to find a place to finally get some playing time. Wish him the best of luck. Now, I'm going to move on to this because speaking of the tight end, I think he could end up being cut, and I think for this aspect too. I mentioned, I kind of actually like the idea of Deshaun Jackson coming to Kansas City, but never in a trade. He was released today. With trading Tardif, that gave him an extra $1.5 million, or around actually almost $2 million. Deshaun's contract is 1.5, and with the trade deadline being over, that means any vet, it will be waived. He won't be released, so he can't decide where he wants to go. It's waiver order claims. Whoever is the worst team has the best shot at getting him. And the Chiefs, actually, since they're not so great right now, they're mid-tier, and so they'll be picking, I think, like 16th. There's a good shot to get him, and I think that would suit well for this team. I know people are saying Deshaun's over the hill, but man, he had a good game against the Bucs. He wants to see more playing opportunities as well. And I think he would fit with this offense. And I know a lot of people are going to be questioning, well, why will we make this move when we have Josh Gordon? And yes, Josh Gordon hasn't been seeing his snaps or playing time. It has gone up. He hasn't seen the targets like that, but I think that will be coming in the near future as well. But with that too, two completely different receivers. One's a big body and one's a speed. Casey's always all about speed. And in this offense right now, with Mahomes struggling to find weapons, add another one. Like, they can't stop everybody. Draw more schemes up, see what happens. This offense will get clicking. It might not be what we're used to, but if you added Deshaun in the mix, I think that will help as well. Of course, he's not an every down player, but throw him in the slot here and there. Man, if you had Deshaun, McCole, and Tyreek on the field at the same time, that's speed galore. If you hit one of them like in a slant screen or even just a fly, anything can happen. I think it would be a good move. Do I think we'll get him? I don't know, because his contract is actually $1.5 million. So people could think that's too much. But as well, you got the Colts ahead of them, which the Colts do need a receiver. That's the only threat. Maybe the Niners as well. But I'm hoping the Chiefs do put a claim, and let's see how it goes. And let me know down below as well. Would Deshaun be a good option for this offense, or do you think we should just avoid him completely? As well, with the Melvin Ingram move, let me know down below if you think that's actually a good signing or a good trade, or you think it just won't help this defense. I think this defense is on the right mend. What I've got from the Giants game, what I've got from the past as well, even the Titans game, even though it got out of hand early, they corrected themselves in the second half. They're good at correcting themselves. And if they could just put a complete game together, which they basically did against the Giants, besides that one play by Sorensen, which seems like we're going to get one every week, but if we can just live with it, then we'll be good. But let me know down below how you feeling about KC, if they impressed. They didn't impress me, but I saw some positives. Let me know if you feel like they could turn it around, or if this is just going to be a long season where they're stuck in their turnovers. And with that being said, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.